This is Support is Sexy, episode 143, with Linda Smith, Senior Partner at DLA Piper and the Meanest Woman Alive. Welcome to Support is Sexy. I'm your host, Elayne Fluker, entrepreneur, author, and founder of Chic Rebellion Media. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, I interview inspiring women entrepreneurs who share their wins and their lessons to help you take your business and your life to the next level and create something sexy. Here we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Support is Sexy. I am so happy to have you here because it just would not be the same without you. And I have a question for you. Are you ready to meet the meanest woman alive? Well, that is who Linda Smith is. And actually, a very interesting story that you'll hear in the episode. It's probably not what you think when we say the meanest woman alive. In fact, as Linda talks about it, it is actually a very empowering position that she talks about being the meanest woman alive. So be sure to listen out for that. But I was just so curious, of course, and drawn to her when I saw that she was coming out with a book called Lessons of Success from the Meanest Woman Alive, and that she has so much wisdom and experience. She's been an attorney, and she's a very powerful, let me correct myself, a very powerful, very successful attorney, a fierce attorney, and she's a senior partner at a firm called DLA Piper. She tries cases where as much as $30 billion is on the line, so she has quite a bit of experience, and there are some times when she has to be, as she says, mean. So we talk about that in this episode and what that means. But in this episode, you'll learn a lot from Linda, who has, as I said, had a lot of experience in business and corporate environments and being in rooms full of men. And what Linda talks about, you might consider kind of controversial, which makes sense. And she's coming out with a book called The Meanest Woman Alive, which will probably be controversial also. But some of the things that you'll hear from Linda in this episode are why women should use their sex to an advantage, how to be tough and nurturing, the key to tapping into your emotional intelligence, why Linda believes a little bit of flirtation goes a long way, the external and internal barriers to success, how to succeed in a misogynistic world, how to use underestimation to your advantage, ways that women self-sabotage themselves. Be sure to listen out for that. All of us, whether consciously or not, self-sabotage ourselves in some way. Also, why Linda believes in faking it until you make it, the best way to build self-confidence. Also, the myth that competence makes you successful. Another great thing to listen out for. I learned a lot, as you can hear in this episode. Also, the trouble with perfection. Linda shares her 3 lessons in success. Also, the important distinction between being mean and being a bitch, how to hold your own in a room full of men. And as I talk about, Linda has had a lot of experience doing that in a room full of men, using her feminine power, balancing that out with being mean when she needs to. It's very interesting to hear her talk about balancing all of that. Also, she talks about why women need to live a little louder and why women supporting women is more critical than ever. And you know, we're all about that because support is sexy. So I know you're going to enjoy this episode. Tons of great information, tons of great tips, advice, a lot of things to consider. Whether you agree or don't agree, it's just great to hear a perspective from someone who has a lot of experience and who talks about her journey. And as always, you know, you can go to supportissexypodcast.com to get more information about Linda, to get links to her website and social media, and to see all of the resources that she mentions in this episode. We'll have links and everything there so you can follow up and see some of these organizations she mentions, see if you're interested, and all that good stuff. So supportissexypodcast.com, and be sure to search Linda and you'll see all of her information there, and you can see other episodes that we've also featured on the podcast. But for now, without further ado, Linda Smith. So Linda, thank you so much for joining us for an episode of Support is Sexy. I'm thrilled to have you here.
Thank you.
First question, when did you first fall in love with entrepreneurship?
I think I fell in love with entrepreneurship when I was a child. In fact, everyone says that I ran my neighborhood with an iron fist. And the thing that's funny, and I want people to understand this, is I have spent my entire career in corporate America because I have been with a large law firm for my whole time, and I work on bet the company cases, which is the kind of cases where if you lose, your company may go out of business. My clients don't like to call them that, but cases for $30 billion or cases where I'm deposing Michael Dell of Dell Corporation or huge cases. Mm-hmm. But nonetheless, and this is nonetheless, I am an entrepreneur because in my firm, like in most of life, especially in this economic times, you eat what you kill. Mm-hmm. And if you don't kill, you don't eat. So that I am responsible for killing, mm-hmm. feeding my team, feeding myself and my team. And I think that it gives you an autonomy and a feeling of power. Not power like power hungry, but just being in charge, being in control, being able to influence your own destiny, being able to call the shots. And by the way, it's not all like that. I mean, you have to, obviously you have to win, mm-hmm. and my particular profession, and you have to, make your clients happy. But I also think, and you're going to hear more about this later, we aren't talking about this yet, I think that women should use their sex for success, because I think that women are far better leaders than men are. I see women with talents and smarts and ambition, and they come out of law school, they come out of college, or they come out of grad school, or they just come out of school and they're starting their own business and they're not making it. Mm. They're either, they come out, in fact, I'm sure you don't want to hold a bunch of facts and figures, but they come out of college and grad school in larger percentages than men. And yet, when you look at the top of any profession, you'll see that there's very few, you know the facts. There's 4.5% of the Fortune 500 are women. 17% of all partners in law firms are women. And we come into law firms probably at 60-40, us being the 60%. So I want women to harness everything they've got, use everything they've got, and make it to the top. And I feel like, based on my journey and also talking to many, many other people and mentoring women for 40 years, I have some tips for people on how to do that.
So starting with women using their sex, do you mean using your gender of being a woman, or your sex as in having sex? Or do you mean both? I'm curious what you think.
I absolutely don't mean having sex.
Okay. I was getting excited, Linda.
I know. Yes, you should. I actually have never seen it work, except perhaps in the olden days, but I think this may be an urban legend where, in Hollywood you can
sleep your way
your way to the top.
The casting couch.
I don't actually believe that's even true, but I have never seen anybody in business be successful in sleeping their way to the top. What happens, it's either everyone hates you if you're sleeping with a boss, or the boss's wife, whatever happens,
it gets complicated, right?
And I think people should, I think women should maintain their integrity at all times. And I think that you should never, ever allow yourself to be sexually harassed or to feel that you're required to sleep with someone because that's the way you're going to get ahead, or they're doing a power trip on you and telling you that. On the other hand, I think that women, I think a couple of things that are maybe controversial. I think that women can use their feminine wiles when they're first starting out to get ahead, because I think women have developed, and this is part of sort of gender stereotypes and part of our innate abilities, women have developed a way to sort of get along, and I call it reading perceptual screens, but that's just a fancy way of saying that women can tell much better than men. They understand that it's important to know where the other person is coming from and what they're thinking and what their motivations are. And so I think that the ability to be able to read the other person, in this case a man, is very, very useful. I also think that a little bit of flirtatiousness or being easy on the eyes is not bad. I know everyone's going to just start screaming at me, but I'm just saying a little bit. And I think that it is, I think that will, it's helpful in that way. But you should never, dress inappropriately. I think you got to keep everything above board. And the other thing about sex, well, I could talk about sex for a while, but I think that you can use the feminine qualities, and I'm not stereotyping us. I'm going to go into external and internal barriers to success and how to get over them. And one of my reasons that I think women will make better and successful leaders is both because they're able to read men, as I said, but also they're able to make an emotional connection to their clients, to their bosses, to their peers. And so a lot of the things, they're also more collegial, they're more collaborative. And I think that a lot of the things that are sexist in that, women are the nurturers and and the men are the tough people and all that. I think women can be completely tough and be a nurturer, but I think some of the qualities of being a woman put us head and shoulders above men. And to get to something that probably, gives away the ending first.
Well, one thing before you say that is, I think it sounds like one of the things you're talking about is emotional intelligence, which I know a lot of people talk about, this idea of being able to tap into what other people are thinking, what they may be feeling, or what the drive is behind it and that kind of thing, as you said in the beginning, of just being able to read people and women being okay with tapping into that part of themselves that allows them to read people.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And I think that women are better at it than men. And I think men in general, or at least the men I meet in business, tend to be more me-centered, me as in themselves, more egotistical, and they're thinking about asserting themselves as opposed to trying to figure out where the other person is coming from. And if you try to figure out where the other person is coming from, you have a tremendous advantage.
So one thing I wanted to go back to, then you've given so much already. One thing I wanted to ask you was the story that you mentioned of, is there an example of is there a moment, I will say, when you figured out that, I need to use who I am as a woman or being a woman in order to help me move forward in my career?
Actually, I originally thought that coming out of law school, I thought that men and women were created equal. And I didn't realize that misogyny is alive and well in the United States, and it's still a man's world, and you have to play by the man's rule book. And that if you're a woman, you have to try harder and be better and constantly impress, so that every time that you meet a new client or you work for a new boss, you have to. It's sort of like I'm dancing as fast as I can, but what it is you just have to show them, because when I was younger, I had big blonde hair. I still have blonde hair, but I'm much younger, and I was curvaceous. I was big, busted, and small elsewhere. And I think as soon as somebody saw me, they thought I was a bimbo. They assumed I was a bimbo. And so the first thing I had to do was, number one, be personable, but number two, be awesome. And by that I mean be really smart and strategic and overcome the man's doubts and fears that I wasn't going to be able to handle whatever they were doing. And I realized that early on. But that is something that was against me. And then I started thinking that, yes, you have to accept that that's true. You have to accept it. But that ultimately it has served me well to be a woman, to be able to, first of all, I think it's sort of fun to be deceptive, to be underestimated.
Right.
When you walk into a room, mm-hmm. Right? Because you get underestimated, and then you can go ahead and blow them away. So you could, and also, so I think that it's sort of advantageous. I know it's weird, but it's advantageous to be underestimated, and then you can use it to your advantage. And then I've just realized over time, and I think it has been an evolution, that qualities of being a woman, which can involve being powerful and tough when you need to be, but the specific qualities of consensus building, collaboration, team building, running a case, running whatever, making people feel as if they have ownership in what you're doing. So they're not just your employee, not being so hung up on the male, macho, aggressive, beat your chest, I'm a gorilla, I'm the toughest person in the room, that you can make other people feel important and praise them and include them, and yet still be the boss. Mm-hmm. And I realized that I actually think that women have an advantage over men in the business world, in any field, as long as they understand, as long as they combine the best aspects of being a woman with the best aspects of being a man, and then throw out the worst aspects of being a man, which is this sort of ultra aggressive, ultra egotistical, I am man, obey me, right. And where they don't really care. They make their people feel like they don't really care about them, and and that they're just cogs in a machine or widgets or whatever you want to call them, and then throwing out the worst parts about being a woman. And I talk about this a lot in my book, and it's just women self-sabotage in so many ways. It's actually scary. We suffer from self-doubt. I know you know about this. There's something called the imposter syndrome.
Yes.
Where women feel like they're frauds and they're going to be discovered any minute. Mm-hmm. Women also believe that competence, what will make them successful, and the more they can excel and the better their work product is, their performance is, the more they will climb the ladder, assuming there is a ladder.
And that's a myth, you're saying?
It's a myth. It turns out, and this has been the subject of lots and lots of scientific studies, which I've reviewed, that self-confidence trumps competence. I love using the word Trump is sort of funny, but self-confidence right. trumps competence every time. And that's why if you can carry yourself, even if it's fake it till you make it, if you can carry yourself as a self-confident person and project that confidence, you will succeed. So I'm saying men reject the part of a man that is too aggressive, too uncaring, too intent on being dominant to worry about other things, and reject the part of a woman that is constantly self-sabotaging by thinking of, am I good enough? Did I do it right? I don't know if I was perfect on that. I'm not going to ask for the promotion because I'm not sure I'm qualified. I'm afraid to speak up because I might say something stupid. Get rid of all that. And leave the best parts of being a woman and the best parts of being a man. Now, that might sound hard to do.
No, it sounds great to do, and it sounds smart to do, I should say. In a way of course, moving forward in your career, but I think also in a way of taking care of yourself, because that can be very stressful to be in this space of wanting to accomplish things and constantly thinking, I'm not good enough, they're going to find me out any minute, having this self-doubt and that kind of thing. But I would ask you, how can people, women listening, or how did you get to that point where you realize you had to leave that part behind and move forward? It sort of sounds like it's really a mindset change.
It is. And the thing is, there has also been some research on this too. Apparently, some of self-confidence, believe it or not, is genetic. There's two, I'm not going to go into it because I'm not a scientist. There's two genes, and if they're long, it means you're going to inherently be more self-confident. But most of self-confidence is actualization or a question of self-discipline to make it so. And here's the deal. Instead of just, looking in the mirror every morning and doing affirmations and saying, I am confident, I am capable, I can kick ass, I can do this. Mm-hmm. the best way to gain self-confidence is through action. Action. And it doesn't actually matter what it is. So let's say, let me just take an easy example.
Sure.
You're in a meeting, any kind of meeting. You're in a business meeting, and you have an opinion on something they're talking about, but you're afraid to say it because you have self-doubts, and you're afraid that everyone will think you're stupid or not sufficiently informed or stating the obvious or whatever you're worried about. If you push yourself forward and say one thing and the world doesn't end, the men don't fall off their chairs laughing, and the conversation goes on, and maybe someone says that's a good idea, or maybe it's dismissed. But I mean,
you've said it.
You've said it, and you feel like you can do it again. And it's like even if you're just acquiring mastery over any skill, will help you achieve self-confidence. And it doesn't have to be mastery. Like, in other words, if I wanted to learn the piano and I took piano lessons and I could play a few songs, that would be enough to give me self-confidence in my ability to play the piano. I don't have to be a concert pianist for the New York Philharmonic. But in business, it's this idea. It's not just telling yourself, I need to be confident, I need to act confident. That, I love all that self-affirmation stuff, and, and not doing the negative self-talk, because so many women are criticizing and self-doubting all the time. I can't do this, I'm afraid, I'm nervous, I'm anxious, what if I'm not good enough, etc. Okay, but go ahead and just try something once, and when you see that the world doesn't end and all your great anxieties and doubts and fears and inadequacies are not realized, then you can try again, and that's how you develop self-confidence.
And is it important to know too, Linda, that it can be imperfect? I think that's some of the things that hold a lot of us up too. It's as much the fear of doing it as it is, well, what if I do it and it's not perfect?
Right. And the thing is, actually, perfection doesn't matter. It's hard for women because I'm that way. I really strive for excellence and perfection in everything I do. And I don't think that's a bad thing. But you will see in any kind of business, you will see a man who's not as smart as you or creative as you or interesting or charismatic or you name it, whatever it is, as you get ahead of you. And why? Not because they're any better. In fact, they're not as good as you are, but they're confident. And so I think or they act self-confidently.
Right.
And I also am a believer, I hate to say it, but I really believe in fake it till you make it, because there's a lot of acting in life. And the thing is, I'm not saying I have to be careful with this because I don't want to say don't be genuine. But, if you, in my situation as a lawyer, when I go into any case, even now, and I'm meeting with the CEO or the chairman of the board or the general counsel of a Fortune 50 company, and they're presenting something to me, I don't usually know much about their industry because I do bet the company and all sorts of different, and so I use my common sense, I listen hard, and I act confidently. Right. And of course I back it up by making sure I know the facts and the law as I give advice. And just a lot of, even, when you first start out, I'm not saying be cocky, or cocky is an interesting word also, because obviously that is male related, but right. I'm not saying to be arrogant or have a lot of bravado or I'm so cool and ego, I can do anything. I mean, there's of course this balance, but I'm talking about just not being timid, feeling like, acting like you can handle it. You can handle it. You can handle whatever they're going to dish out. And that if it's something new, you'll figure it out.
Right.
And if it's something if it's something risky, you'll figure it out, or you'll ask someone for help. I was giving when I gave my stepdaughter. She asked me what lessons I'd learned about life, and I was sitting at the beach in Maui, and I wrote out these lessons off the top of my head. And one is she was starting a new job. And she's very capable, amazingly good. But she has never done this job before. So she's supposed to lead up this meeting and go in, and everyone else has already done it. She's the new person, but she's promoted ahead of them. So I said, go into the meeting and say, all right, here's the issue we have. I'd like your thoughts on it. Get everyone's thoughts in the room and then decide what you want to do. That way you're not saying, I don't know how to do this. In other words, there's ways of eliciting help that don't show that you don't know what you're doing.
From a place of power as opposed to from a place of weakness.
Right. I think the most important way to have people establish a relationship of trust and confidence in you, in whatever field you're in, is to make them feel that they're important and also make them feel that you can do the job and that you're going to be good at it and that you want to do it and you're there.
One of the things that your story made me think about was moderating at a panel a few weeks ago, and the young woman was in the audience, and she wants to be an astronaut. I think it's Olivia the astronaut, we started calling her. But she talked about this program that she wanted to enter, and she was having these fears, as we talked about, these self-sabotaging thoughts of, am I ready? Am I going to be good enough? And that kind of thing. And one of the things that I mentioned was for her to do it anyway, do it afraid, try for the program, get in the program, and as you said, learn as you go. And I said to the audience, that's what a lot of men do. They get in the position and they're comfortable sort of closing the gap while they're in it. Whereas women, we want to know, we want to know all the way, what we're supposed to do, everything we're supposed to do before we even go for it. So is that sort of what you,
exactly.
Sort of being okay with having that knowledge gap and closing it once you're in there, as opposed to waiting until whenever, whilst men jump in and they know nothing, probably less.
There was actually a study done at Hewlett-Packard, and there were people up for promotion. And they found and documented it that men will apply for a promotion if they think they meet 60% of the qualifications, and women will only apply if they meet 100% of the qualifications. So, and it's the same kind of thing where women want to feel comfortable that they're really, really prepared. And I've also read, for example, this is interesting. I've read interviews with Christine Lagarde, who is, of course, the head of the IMF, and with Angela Merkel, who is the chancellor in Germany. And both of them say that they suffer from self-doubt and insecurity. And so what they do is they over-prepare. They take something and they spend an inordinate amount of time preparing so they can seem like they really know what they're talking about. But they do it. They go into the meeting prepared. Maybe they've spent much longer than a man and they didn't need to, and they're smart enough to have handled it without it. But they go ahead and do it. And I am in favor of seizing opportunities, making the opportunity fit you instead of you fitting the opportunity. And men just have so much more confidence in their ability to take on a challenge. And we're just as good and we're just as smart. And they even, you want to hear about one more thing? This is just very weird to me. They had this test that they did, and they had men and women in business school, and they said to them, we're going to give you a logic math test. And if you don't know the answer, don't answer it. And they get the results back, and the men scored way better than the women, and the women answered way less of the questions than men, okay? So then they did it again with another group, and they said, answer every question whether you know the answer or not. And the men and women scored equally. In fact, the women did a little bit better. So it's when you doubt yourself, when you question yourself, when you don't want to respond unless you think your answer is going to be perfect, you're perfectly sure that you're right, or you're pretty sure you're right, then you're holding yourself back.
Right.
I'm not saying blunder into everything. Like I think tomorrow I'm going to be in the NFL. I'll probably be a quarterback. That's not going to happen. I mean, I'm 5 feet on a good day, and older, and not going to happen. No athletic ability whatsoever. So I'm saying, yes, seize opportunities. I mean, obviously be realistic, but on the other hand, women are so smart and capable and ambitious and talented, and go for it.
Right. Be prepared, but don't worry about being perfect.
Right.
So tell us, Linda, where did you grow up? Did you grow up also having this this sort of passion for it's a passion for life, but also just knowing that you were unstoppable? Was that always a part of who you were when you grew up?
You know, that's an interesting question because I was one of three girls. We grew up in South Burlington, Vermont.
Okay.
My family was not poor as in welfare poor or not eating poor, but we sure didn't have any money. And if there were five people in the family, if we went to McDonald's, that was, for five people, that was a big night out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was a big expenditure. And I did not buy a dress retail until I was 18 and I was getting my prom dress. So I had a sense that I wanted to be driven. I was driven from the beginning, and by two reasons. One, it was not having and feeling like I could achieve this. I wanted it for myself. I wanted it for eventually for whatever family I was going to have. I just wanted it. So I was driven from the beginning. And I don't think that poverty is necessarily a driver in and of itself, but it does make you see that you have more opportunities, can travel and can open your life if you have some money to do things with. The other thing is that my parents had three girls, and they never made us feel like we were constrained by being a woman. They told us from the very beginning, you can do anything you want, anything you set your mind to and work hard, you can get. And it was never like, even though you're a woman or even though you're a girl, you can do this. It was just like, you can do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's very empowering to have that kind of support from your parents. And the thing is, I'm perfectly aware that women listening to this may not have that, may not have had that. And, it is what it is. But I did, they say that women, they have all these studies that I started to say earlier that women don't speak up. Women, do you know in conversations, women are interrupted 5 times more than men are. Women don't like to take charge. They're afraid they're going to look like they're aggressive and, et cetera, et cetera. I somehow missed that gene. I missed that stereotype. So I like to lead. I like to be in charge. I like to call the shots. And I've been that way. I mean, it was almost since I was born. I really did run my neighborhood when I was 10.
With an iron fist.
And the thing is, I was, and I say the perfect job for me when I retire is I need to be the benevolent dictator of a small country.
Oh my gosh, the benevolent. At least you'll be benevolent. That's good.
Of course I will. I mean, everyone will be happy, but I mean, I just want to be in charge. It was, I did have an experience when I was growing up that really, I hate to use the word epiphany because a lot of authors, when they start to write a book, they have some epiphany that changed their life. And I find that to be a little bit artificial. But let me just tell you, I'll tell you very quickly, I was an exchange student. There was this program called American Field Service, and I was an exchange student in Arequipa, Peru. Mm-hmm. And this was back in the days when there were not any cell phones and computers, and I just and calling home would have cost a fortune. It was about 7,000, 8,000 miles away from where I lived. So I get there, and on the first day, and I'm 16, and on the first day of school, the mother superior of the school calls an assembly. And it's a school for girls, and all the girls are there of all ages, all classes, all the teachers are there. And she introduces me as the new exchange student and asks me where I'm from and other questions, of course in Spanish, but fortunately it was easy enough to answer those questions. And then, so I am far away from home, and she says to me, what religion are you? And I said, I'm Jewish. And she smiles at me, that sort of smile that's not really a smile. And she turns around and she writes on the blackboard a gigantic swastika.
Oh, my goodness.
And she turns around and she says to me, I think Hitler was the greatest man who ever lived.
Oh, my goodness. What did you feel and think in that moment?
Well, I was horrified and shocked and angry.
And this is a nun, you said.
This is the Mother Superior on my first day in this country with the whole school there. And she said, do you agree with me? And my Spanish got much better, and I actually started dreaming in Spanish after a while. But I said, no, I don't agree with you. And she said, well, why not? And I said, well, I should have said he killed 2 million Catholics, but shoulda, woulda, coulda in hindsight. I said, well, he killed 6 million Jews. Mm-hmm. And she said, yes. And then she turns around, makes the swastika on the blackboard, which is already big, bolder, and says, well, I think he was the greatest man who ever lived.
Wow.
And that experience, what that experience taught me is it is frustrating, horrible, so to be helpless, to be unempowered, to be to have no ability to fight back in a way that was realistic. And I did not want to be in that situation again.
And to be made to feel like other.
Yeah, well, I've been made to feel like other times, including by virtue of my sex, but this was the time that I felt the most unempowered that I had. There was nothing I could do. And it was demoralizing and it was degrading. And I don't want to be demoralized or degraded by anyone for any reason, period. And also the fact that and then the other thing that would happen there is I was sent to work at a classroom of, underprivileged kids. And so these were little 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. The classroom was filthy and dirty. The kids had missing teeth and snotty noses and open scabs. And as soon as I walked in, they would run and hug me because they were so needy of attention and love. And I would talk to the so-called teachers or caregivers or whatever you want to call them, and they were completely indifferent. So again, I just think that hopelessness I don't want to be either hopeless or disenfranchised or unempowered or degraded or demoralized. I mean, that's a lot of things not to want to be. So I want to be powerful. I want to be treated with dignity and respect. And the other thing the whole thing taught me, which has served me well, by the way, in my career, is always treat everyone with dignity and respect. There is no reason why anyone, black, white, green, is Jewish, Muslim, whatever you want, is better than anyone else. We're all human beings. Some people have not been afforded the same opportunities. We're blessed that we have been. And I think it's really been the key. One of the keys to success is to treat everyone with dignity. You have no idea. Even the staff at my law firm have said to me, you're the most amazing partner. You treat us with respect like we're people. Well, isn't that the most basic thing in the world?
Right. But it shouldn't be the thing that's then the exception. That should be the rule.
Right. But that's part of also team leadership, is that people feel like they count. I mean, people want to matter. Everyone wants to matter. I'm saying things that are so prosaic, I know, but it's so important, especially the more power you have as you go up the ladder, the more power you have, the more you have to remember that, okay, you've earned it by your hard work and success, and good for you, bravo. but the rest of the people are still working hard and doing their best they can, and they deserve dignity and respect always. And that it also will, it's also sort of Machiavellian in that they will go out and, the messenger service will go run a pleading down the street for you, or the secretary will tell you that there's a big fight in this conference room. I mean, people will go out of their way for you because you'll go out of your way for them. And I just think it's a very basic principle. Anyway, I've gotten way off the subject, but I think you were asking me about my background, and I wanted to point out that this experience in Peru was really eye-opening in terms of making me feel like I did not, and I mean, you can call it an entrepreneurship if you want to, that I wanted to be in charge, that this was my life, and I wasn't going to have other people dictate to me what it would be like and also make me feel small.
Mm-hmm. Now, you, a lot of what you talk about is just, as you mentioned, being benevolent, being a leader who really brings in people and makes people feel valued. And you seem like a very loving person. And you're a partner at, is it DLA Piper, a senior litigation partner? DLA Piper.
I was at O'Melveny and Myers for 37 years, and then DLA Piper. Yeah.
So within those spaces, you have this this huge career. You've been an attorney, a very successful, I should say, attorney, and as you said, bet the company cases and multi-billion-dollar cases. You've done all this great work. You're still a loving, giving leader. But how did you get to the point where you became known as the meanest woman alive? Because I don't get that from you. So that is one of my burning questions at this point. So what does that title mean, and how did that come about?
Okay, the Meanest Woman Alive title was given to me, believe it or not, with affection by PricewaterhouseCoopers. I was representing them in a $30 billion with a B dollar case, and what I would do is I would practice cross-examine them. And I would examine them so meanly that, because I knew all their weak spots, that when they got to their actual testimony, it was easier. Mm-hmm. And it was a relief. So they felt like they called me the meanest woman alive because of my toughness with my own client, which they vastly appreciated, not during, but after. And then what happened is Corporate Board Magazine did a profile on me, which went to all the Fortune 500 boards, and they entitled it The Meanest Woman Alive. And that has stuck with me since then, and I love it. My firm was not that crazy about it, frankly, but I think it's great.
Your current firm or your previous firm?
Either one of them. I mean, it just even this book I'm writing, they're trying to say I have to try to have a nice picture of me on the front so people aren't afraid of it or something, so afraid of me. And the thing is, here's the deal. I am kind, I am compassionate, I am giving, I listen, I'm inclusive, I do all these good things. However, if the other side lies to me, mischaracterizes the facts or the law, is abusive to my witness, or takes a position that I think is untrue or unfair, I will cut their heart out. Mm. I am, and not in a, I'm not in a hysterical, womanly, you're hysterical kind of a way, but just a tough, cold, calculating, strong position on my part. No, this goes no further. This is not happening. This is not true. You will not do this. You will not treat my witness like that. You will not treat, etc. So that, yeah, I am mean. And it's actually funny because I think one of the things I like about being a litigation partner is that it's a way of having sanctioned aggression. Mm. I know that's very weird, but
I like that term though.
Well, because I think I'm a really good friend and mother and Yeah, all that kind of stuff. And I think I'm a nice person and fun. By the way, I believe strongly in a sense of humor. If you don't have a sense of humor, I don't know how people get through the day.
Right.
But if crossed, or if something is not presented fairly or ethically, or someone is abusive to my folks, or they're taking a position that I feel very strongly is not right, I will just go after them hammer and tong.
So it's really that you're fierce. You're a fierce defender of your people as opposed to mean.
I am. In fact, that's exactly right. I'm a gladiator.
Mm-hmm.
I think that then became, what was the scandal? Olivia Pope is a gladiator.
Yes.
I don't know if you're.
Yes, absolutely.
But that was way after I decided I was a gladiator. Because I am there as a proponent for my cause and my clients, and I am there to protect them from harm. And I had one during I was lead counsel on the biggest antitrust case ever in the history of the world, or the universe, since I don't know about the rest of the world, since I don't know about anything else other than our world. And the general counsel got all the senior CEOs from management, C-suite people from all around the world and said, "This woman is the meanest woman alive. If you report to her any acts of anti-competitive behavior and do what she says, when it comes to your deposition, she will rip the other side's heart out. But if you don't listen to her, then she'll let them rip your heart out." And believe me, there was a whoa in the room. And the thing is, as I said, I'm 5 feet tall, and with this hair, and they sort of feared me, but we bonded and became very close colleagues, and it was a very fun relationship. But I think the fear was useful in getting them to initially cooperate with me.
Mm-hmm. What do you love about the law? You've been doing it for 40 years now. You obviously are still very passionate about it. What do you love about it?
Besides the sanctioned aggression.
Besides the sanctioned aggression. That was a good one. I like that.
Well, what I love about the law is what I love about the law is that I practice what I call bathtub law. And I know that is so weird, but every time I tell to someone, they get it and they think it's really true. We got into this in the law where people are antitrust lawyers or RICO lawyers or class action lawyers or commercial litigation lawyers. And so there were a group of us in Century City at O'Melveny, and we ended up in every group because we did securities fraud and antitrust and all these other things. And so we decided, nah, forget it. We're just going to be the business trial litigators, BTL, not BLT, but BTL, and just take really cool cutting edge cases in whatever field we want. And so that's what I do. And I've done that my whole career. And so what happens is, like, I had a case for the trucking industry. What do I know about the trucking industry? Absolutely nothing. So it's an antitrust case of a specific kind. So I fill up the bathtub with all the facts and law about the trucking industry. I know everything about the trucking industry. I'm an expert. I know the law. I know the facts. I know everything. And I finish the case and I pull the plug.
And you drain the bathtub.
Drain the bathtub. And the next case is about microprocessors. So I then fill it up again. And it makes for a challenging, really fun way to practice law. And the other thing is, I love practicing with other people. And my cases tend to be big, which means I have a team, and we can work together, and it's creative and it's fun. I don't want to be alone sitting in my office just working. So I like the fact that it's very collaborative and, collegial. And I always try to sit in with my team when they have to do something that's not very fun, like review documents. I'll go sit in with them so we can talk about the documents as we all review them.
Nice. Now, your book, as you mentioned, is called Lessons from the Meanest Woman Alive. What would you say are 3 lessons about success that you would want every woman to know? Okay.
Well, the first one we talked about, and it is, number 1, confidence trumps competence. That you can only grow your confidence through your actions. So you need to stop self-sabotaging, self-doubt. Don't give into it and feeling like you're an imposter. Stop trying to be perfect. Take risks, seize opportunities. Learn that it's okay to fail because you can get up again and succeed. And I think it's that fear of failure that doesn't teach us that if you do fail, you can get up again and keep going. Number 2 is be awesome.
Be awesome.
Work hard. And I mean, you get nothing without effort. You have to be really good. And as part of that, I think I've combined a whole bunch of lessons into each one of these just to try to stack them up. But make sure you speak truth to power. Always, whether you're dealing with the chairman of the biggest corporation in the United States or not, you should always say what you want. Say the truth. I mean, you can use a little bit of flattery. You can be gentle about certain things, but you can't let people get away with lying. As lawyers, we learn how to spin the facts, but everyone has to maintain their integrity, and you have to speak truth to power. And the third thing is use everything you've got. Use your sex. In the way we talked about, use women's unique ability to read, emotional intelligence, the perceptual screen, the ability to read people, and use the woman's ability to do collaboration and make emotional connections and build teams, and you will go far.
Excellent. Now, let me ask you, with this idea of being mean, which we know now it means a little different for you, but would you say women should embrace, or how, I guess I should say, would you say that women can embrace this idea of being mean without being a bitch? Or do we need to make that distinction? What's the distinction between those two things now that we know what you mean by being mean?
Well, women understand the distinction between being mean and being a bitch, but men don't particularly. I have been called uppity, opinionated, aggressive, and bitchy, all of which, other than the last, are traits of any good litigator, especially as you better be opinionated. And I don't know what uppity means. Just,
uppity means not staying in your place, right? That's
Right, exactly. So the thing is, I think that stereotype still exists. I think, and I don't think it's gone. And so you have to, so I have been called a bitch and other words. But the thing is, I think you have to be strong, empowered, and take positions, take the lead. But as I said, if you can temper it a little bit with your feminine qualities by being, responsive to people's need and reading where they're coming from, and being a little bit more collaborative, then you don't come across as just a cold-hearted bitch. Mm-hmm. And I think that I know that, for example, at O'Melveny, there were waiting lists for people to be on my teams. So even though, because of the collaborative spirit, because I generated, everyone had a sense of ownership, everyone got to be heard, everyone was respected. You had to do great work. You didn't do great work, you were off my team. Right. I mean, and at the end of the day, I'd listen to everyone's opinion, but the buck stopped with me. I made the ultimate opinion. So I was strong. I was a strong leader, but I was inclusive. And I think having those female characteristics is part of being a superior leader.
Excellent. Now, I had a conversation recently with an entrepreneur named Wendy Wallner, and she has a business called Balancing Life's Issues, right? She's had it for 30 years. It's successful. And she spoke about realizing that she had to be, quote unquote, a little bit louder in order to, I think she's about 5 feet tall too. I love all these 5-foot women. But she talked about this idea of embracing that she needed to be a little bit louder to hold her own in spaces that were dominated by men. So I wanted to talk to you. You've given us some advice about this, but what's your advice, would you say, to our listeners about holding their own in spaces dominated by men? Because I know you've had to do that throughout your career. Is there one key thing that you think women listening, especially younger women, all women though, should keep in mind?
Well, there's a quote that I use all the time, and it's by Emile Zola, and I'm sure you know it, but it says, "If you ask me what I came to do in this life, I will tell you. I came to live out loud." And that is, I do think as a woman, you need to live a little louder. You need to push yourself up. You need to be stronger, take risks, take opportunities, speak up, have a seat at the table, be part of the conversation. And if you have to push to be there, then so be it. You just try not to walk in anybody's head on your way. I mean, you don't have to climb to the top I know guys who would kill their grandmother for something, a dime.
Right.
I mean, I think women do have to be pushier and louder and taller in spirit than they are in actuality.
I like that, taller in spirit than in actuality. I love that. Now, I know you mentor young women. You mentioned about that, and I know you give career advice to a lot of women. Based on your 40 years of experience in the business and knowing what you know now, what would you say your advice would be to a younger Linda? Your younger self.
Yeah, well, that is who I wrote the book for. It was that you're supposed to have an avatar who is, and my avatar was myself if I was coming out of school right now, and it's basically the things that we discussed. That there are all these external barriers that are put up that are basically it's still a sexist world and a man's world. Live with it. Don't whine about it. Deal with it and be awesome. And that there's all these internal self-sabotaging behaviors. Get over yourself. And it's not like, I'm not like snap your fingers and get over yourself, but I think the most important thing to do is take actions, seize moments, take risks. I keep using these action words. Grab a seat at the table, volunteer for the new opportunity, apply for the promotion, speak up if you have something to say. Don't just speak to speak, but if you have something to say that you can contribute, speak up. And if it doesn't work out so great, so what? Try it again.
Right. So what does your support network look like, Linda? I know you do a lot. You've done a lot over the years, but who are the people that support you, whether personally or professionally?
Personally, I have a lot of friends, none of whom are lawyers.
Sometimes it's good to have friends outside of what you do, right?
I don't want to kick off a whole new subject because I think we're probably close to the end, but women do not help women. There is no old girls network like there's an old boys network. And very often you will find that there can only be, if it's male dominated, almost everywhere I go still, I'm the only woman in the room. At a meeting of all the defense counsel, at a hearing, at any kind of meeting, I'm still the only woman in the room or the only woman partner in the room. It just is, what happens is I think if you're a woman who is powerful and has gotten there on their own, you are, and everyone else are men. You're like the queen bee of the hive. And I think women don't like another queen bee coming in.
Do you find that that's the case with all generations that you've worked with, or do you find that it's starting to change some, or is it just?
It is starting to change. I mean, I've been mentoring women for 40 years. I think it's an obligation of women who have been successful to mentor those coming along and help them, because it's also very hard. There aren't role models for women in a lot of these jobs either. So I think women should help women, and I belong to a couple of women's power groups, leadership groups of all kinds of businesses. And I find that empowering. And one of the things we do in those groups is we don't bitch about how it's a man's world and there's only 3 of us and there's 300 men in this job. We talk about how to help each other make money and gain more power. And so I'm part of this group called Founders Network. I'm part of a group called Broad Circle. But anywhere where you can find women who are interested in helping each other is terrific. I just wanted to warn people that the assumption that just because a woman is successful, she's going to help women below her is still not true.
And that's because of this idea of being the queen bee for some women, or feeling threatened if other women come along.
It's almost like there's only one space. For 18 years at O'Melveny, I was the most senior woman partner. There's an 18-year gap between me and the next woman partner.
Wow.
And it wasn't because the women didn't make partner, but they either stalled or left or couldn't take it anymore or got fired. And so if you're like, it's like you're the token, I guess, and that has to go away. That has to go away.
Right. And the way to make it go away is women supporting women. I'm an optimist. I just am trying to believe that more women are supporting each other, or you know what? It's not even trying to believe it. For me, it's creating a space like this where women like you come on and share your story. And that in a way is supportive to other women. So I think it's also of us finding other ways to support each other and being able to contribute to that, as opposed to thinking, as you said, someone's going to steal my spot.
Right. And that's why I love your podcast, because it's empowerment. It's women's empowerment, and it's women helping women, and it's sharing secrets of success and sharing how to be an entrepreneur. And it's very important. And I'm very dedicated to this too.
Excellent. So just a couple more questions. I know we're a little bit over time here. In closing, if you think over your life and career and you had the chance to thank only one person whose support was critical to you personally or professionally, who would that be and what would you say?
Well, if it's not my parents, because they were the ones who let me think I could do anything I wanted and succeed and have consistently been proud of me for everything, it would probably be my mentor. And this is I'll tell you this very quickly, but this is a funny story. My mentor was named Bill Vaughn, and he was the head of the litigation department at O'Melveny. And he was 6'7", blonde hair, had a deep booming voice like James Earl Jones, and could dominate a room merely by his presence. Not only that, but of course he was very smart and etc. But he was my mentor, and I barely stood 5 feet, didn't have that kind of voice, and and I had to learn how to dominate by my personality and by force of will. But he taught me everything, and I would say everything about. And I know this is corny, please. He taught me to always maintain my integrity, to never let people misconstrue you or insult you. It was sort of like stand your ground, never, ever, ever misrepresent anything to a court or to the other side. Your reputation is your bond. Sorry, it sounds like an old-timey thing, but people know who you can count on and who's a liar. And so I would thank him for that, and for also showing me that the practice of law can be a lot of fun, and you can laugh.
And you can laugh.
Yes.
Excellent. So tell us how we can support you, Linda. If there's any websites, tell people about your book, when it's coming out, and how we can find it. So this way we can make sure to support you.
My Facebook is The Meanest Woman Alive. On Twitter, I'm Meanest Woman. I guess I'm not alive. On Instagram, I'm Meanest Woman Alive. And then I have a website called themeanestwomanalive.com, which is going to go live very soon. And the book, I would say probably we're looking at the summer, I would say, for publication. But I'm going to get everything up live so that the dialogue can start now.
So people can go to themeanestwomanalive.com and they'll be able to see when the book is coming out and all that great stuff.
And also we can start blogging and talking about these issues, because I'm sure people have a lot to say.
Excellent. Linda, you've been fantastic and so fun and not mean at all. But I just love your energy and all the wisdom that you have to share. There's so much. I feel like I could have several conversations with you. So I really appreciate you being here and sharing your wisdom and what you're doing for women in general, for young women, but women in general, to learn how to navigate these different spaces. And what did you say about your spirit, having your spirit be taller?
My spirit has to be taller than my physique, my height. Yes.
Exactly. Thank you so much. Now, before you go, I'll ask you for a parting piece of advice from you to our listeners about anything.
Don't try to outman the men. Be yourself. you're going to be incredibly effective if you can believe in yourself.
I love that. Don't try to outmen the men. Thank you, Linda. Hold on just a second. You've been fantastic.
Okay, and thank you. It's been a privilege.
All right. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed that episode with Linda Smith. A lot of great things to consider in that episode, right? If it works for you, be sure to put them into action today. And of course, you can go to supportissexypodcast.com, search Linda, Linda, and you can see her show notes episode there. And while you're at it, please go to supportissexylove.com. That's supportissexylove.com, and take a look at my fundraising campaign on I Fund Women. I'm very proud of it, very excited about it. Just launched it this week. I've told you guys all about it, so go back if you haven't heard it. Listen to Monday's episode. Hear all of the details. I'll be talking more about it as time goes on, but I would love for you to take a look. Donate if you can. Help me reach the goal of $20,000, which is to support the Support is Sexy podcast. Help us reach that goal. It'll go towards production, talent booking, and social media strategy. Very important, and things that I'm going to hire other women entrepreneurs to support me with. So supportissexylove.com. Check it out. Check out the video. As I said, donate any amount that you can, or if you can't donate at this time, please be sure to share it with your network. It has all of the social media channels there, easy to share. That helps me as well. So as always, I really appreciate all of you being here and listening. It would not be the same without you, as I always say. And now you know what to do. Go out there and create something sexy, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.